Hi, welcome to another mini lesson. We're doing this mini lesson for the addition of real numbers, part 1. Basically, positive and negative decimals is what we're going to be looking at. First off, we want to look at adding the addition of positive decimals. If you have two decimals and they're both positive and you're adding them together, it's actually not that bad. It's just like adding regular numbers. Just make sure that you line up the decimals. So, for example, if you like to add this way, then you'll line up the decimals right on top of each other and add them up, and your answer will have the decimal in the same exact spot. Okay, so 8 and 4 is 12. You can carry the 1, and 7 and 2 is 9, and 1 is 10. So that would be the final answer for that question. Pardon me, I just sneezed. Okay, so you would just line up the decimals and add them up and carry numbers just like you would normally in addition. Now, when you have numbers that have different signs, then there's a rule that we need to do here. And first thing I'd like to show is just what exactly is it that we're doing. And I thought that using a number line to show that would be helpful. So here's what we've got. I've got negative 5.1, so I made that mark on the line here. It's that little yellow thing. So there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit, negative 5.1. And we are adding 3.9. So because they are opposite numbers, they're going to be going in opposite directions. So the negative 5.1 is going in that direction, and the positive 3.9 is going in that direction. So if you go forward here, 3.9, you'll hit right around there, which is, oh, that's a terrible color, I'm sorry, 1.2, negative 1.2. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. I'm actually not sure if I wrote even the negative in there, but it's negative 1.2. Okay, that's the point that we reach. Okay, so using a number line, this is how we would solve this problem and kind of look at it. Negative 5.1, we're adding 3.9, and that brings it up to a negative 1.2. Now, to solve it mathematically is a little bit different, and that's okay. And I'm looking real close. I don't see the negative there. So that's a mistake. That's my mistake of this recording, is that I didn't write a negative there. That is negative 1.2. Alright, so we're going to solve mathematically. To do that, we will look at, there's an example on page 76 that really outlines this in a good way. Basically, we want to label each of these two parts here. I'm going to call A 3.9 and B 5.1, and the reason I'm doing that is because A is greater than B. Okay, so you pick the greater number to be A. Next step is that I take the absolute value of both of these terms, okay, the absolute value of 5.1, the absolute value of 3.9. And the reason I'm doing that, again, I've switched the order here, but if you look on the example on page 76, it'll all make sense. The reason I'm doing that is because the absolute value of negative 5.1 is greater than the absolute value of 3.9. Now, because that's the case, when I'm adding these two together, to get the answer, I will do this. Okay, I will take the negative value, the negative overall value of the absolute value of the larger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. Okay, basically, this example is showing us the way that we're going to be doing it. So our final answer, we'll take the absolute value of negative 5.1, which becomes positive 5.1, minus absolute value of 3.9, which is just 3.9, and we end up with a negative 1.2. The inside value there is 1.2, and so that will be negative 1.2, which we have over here. So what we do is, first off, you're going to label both parts, A and B. And then you look at the example. You want to find which one is larger. Okay, the positive number, which one has a larger absolute value, I'm sorry. The positive number or the negative number? In this case, it's the negative number. Okay, so when we're adding these together, we've discovered that the larger absolute value is the negative number, and so you're going to use this method from the textbook. If the larger number were the positive number, then you use a different method. And again, it's all outlined, the different methods, on page 76. But I just wanted to actually work through one of those problems. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, we're not going to use a number line this time. Instead, we're just going to solve it straight down. We look at these two numbers, 10.9 and negative 14.8. Which of those two values has a larger absolute value? Well, let's find out. The absolute value of 10.9 is 10.9. And the absolute value of negative 14.8 is 14.8. See that? My handwriting were just a little neater on this iPad. Okay, there we go. Okay, so 10.9, the absolute value is 10.9. The absolute value of negative 14.8 is positive 14.8, and so we can see this one is larger. Because that's the negative number, we're going to use the same method that we did before, where it's a negative, the total value will be negative, and then we take the absolute value of the larger number minus the absolute value of the smaller number. And when I say the smaller number, I'm talking about the smaller absolute value, okay? And when I do that, what I'm going to get is this, negative 14.8 minus 10.9. All right, and 14.8 minus 10.9 is equal to 3.9, so my final answer will be negative 3.9, which equals just simply negative 3.9. Okay? So that is how I would do this question. Okay? Again, you look for the larger absolute value, and in this case it's a negative number, so we use this method. All right? In this case, we have two negative numbers in the next question. And this question comes from page 78, number 4. When you have two and they have the same signs, then what you do when you're adding them is a different method. And that method's kind of easy, actually. It's not so bad. Instead of adding two negatives together, what you can do is take the negative value of the whole thing and just add two positive numbers together. Okay. All right. So you see here I've taken, by taking the absolute value of negative 2.8 and negative 9.9, essentially what I'm doing is I'm eliminating the negative numbers, right? I'm making them into positive numbers. So now what I'll get is a 2.8 plus 9.9. All right. Okay, by taking the absolute value, like I said, we're just eliminating the negative. So if I put the negative on the outside here, get rid of the negatives on the inside, what it's doing, it does seem like it's adding a step, but it's going to make it more clear what your final answer is. Basically, it's making it so that you don't have to add together negative numbers, because negative numbers are sometimes confusing. So we're getting rid of the negative numbers and just saying the overall value we know is going to be negative. So let's just add these two positive numbers together instead. Okay, so 2.8 plus 9.9 is equal to 12.7. And again, we'll just leave the negative on the outside, and then that negative can be distributed inside for our final answer of negative 12.7. Okay? So that is the way that I would solve this problem. And again, these are using the examples that are kind of set forth in those sample questions. They show you several different samples, and I think that they're pretty helpful in sort of illustrating which way you're going. If you've got two negatives, you use this method. If you have a negative and positive, you use the method that we used in the previous two questions. And if you've got two positive numbers, then you just add them together like we did in the first slide. Okay? I hope that this has been helpful for you, and I hope you do really well on the test. Good luck, or on the quiz. Have a wonderful day.